Evelyn, what gave you the nerve to walk out on Jack? Have you forgotten your duties as his wife? You're going to regret this, mark my words. Linda's voice pierced through the small, cluttered living room like a dagger. Her eyes bored into me, seething with barely contained anger. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Linda, I have my reasons for leaving, I said calmly, though my heart pounded in my chest. Linda scoffed, crossing her arms. Reasons? What reasons could possibly justify abandoning your husband? It all flashed before my eyes. The years of watching Jack's calm demeanor turn into cold indifference. The strain of the recession stealing his job, and with it, our peace. Our 6-year marriage had started with promise, his dreams aligning with mine like two perfect puzzle pieces. But life, it seemed, had other plans. Jack hadn't taken well to job hunting. Weeks turned into months, his frustration mounting as every application went unanswered. Meanwhile, my own modest income from graphic design barely kept us afloat. Jack hasn't found a job in months, Linda. We've been struggling to survive. It's not about abandonment. It's about survival, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. Struggling? Linda's eyebrows shot up. Is that what you call it when my son desperately searches for work while you prance around in front of a computer all day? A swell of anger rose in me. I work long hours to pay the bills. Jack isn't the only one affected here. He's a man, Evelyn. He has pride. He can't just take any job. Do you know how that would look? What people would say? She challenged. That's the problem, Linda, I said through gritted teeth. He's letting his pride come before our needs. Just then, the front door creaked open. Jack stepped inside, looking gaunt and haggard. His eyes widened when he saw our confrontation. What's going on here? He asked, his voice tired. I turned to face him. We were just discussing why I left, I said, squaring my shoulders. Jack, we need to find a solution that works for both of us. This can't go on. Jack's face tightened. We're fine. I'll find something soon. You just need to be patient. Patient? I echoed, my voice rising. I've been patient. All I'm asking is that we make changes before we lose everything. A heavy silence fell over the room. Linda glared at me with venomous eyes, but it was Jack's look of helplessness that cut the deepest. He sank into the worn-out armchair, head in his hands. I'm trying, Evelyn. I really am. We need to move to a more affordable place, I said, reaching for his hand. It doesn't make sense to stay here when we can barely keep up. No, Jack said forcefully, pulling away. We are not moving. I refuse to give my mother something else to criticize. And that's what this is about. I shot back, the frustration boiling over. Your pride and your mother's judgment are more important than our stability. Linda's face turned red with fury. How dare you speak to him like that? After everything he's been through? We've all been through enough, I said, my voice breaking. Jack, you need to listen to me. If we don't change something, we're going to fall apart. Jack looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. Maybe you're the one who's falling apart, Evelyn. I stood there, stunned. His words cut deeper than I'd expected. I turned away, biting back the tears. I need to go, I whispered, grabbing my coat. Running away again? Linda taunted, but I didn't look back. Evelyn, wait, Jack called, but I was already out the door, the cold air hitting me hard. As I walked away from the house, from Jack and Linda, one thought kept spinning in my mind. I had my reasons, and I knew, deep down, I needed to stand by them. I sat in my car, the engine humming softly as I stared at the road ahead. Moving to a cheaper apartment was a bitter pill, but it was the only way forward. When I walked in the door, Jack was sitting on the couch, flipping through channels, eyes glazed over. We need to talk, I said, setting my bag down. He barely glanced up. About what? I found a more affordable apartment. It's in a nice area and we could save a lot, I explained, hoping he'd understand. Jack's expression turned stony. We're not moving. I'm not dragging my reputation through the mud just to save a few bucks. It's not about that, I sighed. It's about making sure we can survive this. His jaw clenched. You don't get it, do you? My mother will never let us hear the end of it. At least think about it, I pleaded. We're drowning here. Just then, the door flew open, and Linda stormed in, her eyes blazing. What's this I hear about moving? Jack shot me a warning look, but I couldn't hold back anymore. We need to find somewhere affordable, Linda. We're just managing to scrape by. Jack told me you're pushing for this ridiculous idea. Linda's voice was sharp. You just want to make my son look like a failure. That's not true, I retorted, feeling the anger rise again. I'm trying to help. Help? She scoffed. By belittling him? He's a man. He needs to look after his family. I am looking after my family, Jack muttered, looking defeated. Really? I shot back. By turning down jobs because they're beneath you? We can't afford to be picky right now. Linda stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. My son deserves better than to be degraded by some insignificant job. You're the one who needs to step up. I shook my head. This isn't about ego. This is about keeping a roof over our heads. How dare you? Linda hissed. You've always wanted to undermine Jack. I felt an icy fury build inside me. This isn't about you, Linda. This is about us. And if you're not going to be supportive, stay out of it. Supportive? She laughed bitterly. You couldn't handle your responsibilities, and now you want to run away. Enough, Jack shouted, standing up. Both of you, enough. He turned to me, eyes pleading. Stop making this harder. I looked at him, frustration gnawing at me. Don't you see? We need a change. Jack turned away, shaking his head. I can't do this, he muttered. I grabbed my bag and moved to the door. If you change your mind, let me know, but I can't keep living like this. Linda's sneer followed me out. Go on, leave, see if the world cares about your pity party. As the door slammed behind me, the weight of it all hit me. I was fighting a losing battle. Jack's pride and Linda's venomous grip were stronger than our love, but I couldn't let that destroy me. I had to fight for my own sanity, even if it meant stepping away. The cold air outside felt liberating compared to the suffocating atmosphere inside the house. I walked down the street, my mind racing. I needed a plan, a new start. Linda's words echoed in my head, but I shook them off. It wasn't pity I needed, it was resolve. I spent the night with my thoughts, figuring out steps to take, starting with visiting a more affordable place. The road ahead seemed daunting, but it was a journey I had to make. Jack's refusal to see reason and Linda's relentless criticism showed me I had to look out for myself. It was time to reclaim my life. I walked into the apartment that Jack and I had shared for 6 years, feeling the suffocating weight of our unresolved issues. The living room, once full of warmth, now felt cold and uninviting. Boxes were scattered everywhere, remnants of my attempt to create some semblance of order in our chaotic life. Jack was at the table, our usual dinner routine, disrupted by the silence that followed my recent suggestions. Tonight I had managed to make a simple meal, pasta and salad. It wasn't much, but it was all I had time for after working a full day. Is this it? Jack asked, poking at his food with a fork. There was annoyance in his voice. It's all I could manage, I replied, tiredly sinking into the chair opposite him. This is what it's come to, he continued, not meeting my eyes. We're seriously living off scraps now? I'm sorry, Jack, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There's only so much I can do. I've been working long hours, handling everything here. We need to cut back. He slammed his fork down, startling me. You think I'm just sitting here enjoying this? You think this is what I wanted? I took a deep breath, feeling the tension rise. No, I don't. But you're not helping by refusing to make changes. We have to be realistic. Realistic? He scoffed. You're the one who's given up. You've been distant, always criticizing. I'm not criticizing, I said, struggling to keep my frustration in check. I'm trying to find solutions. We can't go on like this. And what about you? He shot back. You think you're perfect? You neglect everything else just to keep that job. I'm neglecting? The accusation stung. I'm the one keeping us afloat. He pushed his chair back violently, causing it to topple over. Enough. I don't need your lectures. Suddenly, the door opened, and Linda walked in, her eyes scanning the scene. What's going on now? She demanded, sensing the tension. Jack turned to her, gesturing toward the table. This is what we've been reduced to, Mom. Barely any food, constant arguments. Linda's eyes narrowed as she looked at me. This is unacceptable, Evelyn. You can't even manage a decent meal? Linda, I'm doing my best, I snapped, losing my patience. Working long hours doesn't leave much time for anything else. Your best? She sneered. Your best is what drove Jack to this point. Maybe if you took care of your responsibilities instead of running off to work, we wouldn't be in this mess. That's completely unfair, Linda, I said, my voice trembling. I've been handling everything while Jack. While Jack what? Linda interrupted. While Jack suffers because of your failures? Jack, looking defeated, sank back into his chair. He didn't defend me. didn't say a word. I need help, I almost whispered, looking at Jack. I can't do this alone. We don't need your pity, Linda spat. You will take care of this household properly, job or not. It's time you remembered your place as Jack's wife. Her words struck hard, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. I won't sacrifice everything just to live up to your expectations, Linda, I said, standing up. You'll do what's necessary, she replied, eyes cold and unrelenting. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought them back. This isn't about you, I said, turning to leave. I've had enough. As I walked out, the finality of my decision hit me. This relentless cycle had to end. The house felt more like a battleground than a home, and I couldn't keep fighting a war where I was the only one seeking peace. I needed to reclaim my strength, even if it meant walking away from everything I once knew. The sun was setting as I pulled into the driveway of my parents' house. The familiar sight brought a wave of mixed emotions, relief, guilt, and a trace of hope. As I stepped out of the car, the front door opened, and my mom, Susan, came rushing out. Evelyn, honey, she called, wrapping her arms around me in a warm hug. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks, Mom, I murmured, holding on tight. I didn't know where else to go. Come inside, she said softly, guiding me into the house. My dad, Tom, was sitting in the living room, his face lighting up when he saw me. Hey, kiddo, he greeted, standing up to give me a hug. Rough day, huh? You could say that, I replied, trying to smile. The warmth of my parents' home was comforting. It felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of my life with Jack and Linda. We sat down at the kitchen table, and my mom poured me a cup of tea. So what happened? She asked gently. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past few months. Jack and I have been struggling. He lost his job and refuses to find something new. I'm the only one working, and it's not enough. His mom keeps interfering, making everything worse. Tom nodded thoughtfully. Linda's always been difficult, but it sounds like things have gotten out of hand. They have, Dad. I suggested moving to a more affordable place, but Jack refuses. He's worried about what Linda will think, I said, feeling the frustration bubble up again. Susan's face tightened. And what did Linda say? She accused me of failing Jack. She wants me to quit my job and stay home, take care of everything, I admitted, feeling the anger rise. I can't do that. I shouldn't have to. Of course not, my dad said firmly. You've worked hard to build your career. There's nothing wrong with wanting to keep it. I just don't know what to do, I sighed. I love Jack, but he's changed, and Linda, she's toxic. Susan reached over and took my hand. You did the right thing by leaving, at least for now. You need space to figure things out. I can't keep living like this, I confessed, tears welling up in my eyes. I'm exhausted, and I feel like I'm losing myself. You need to take care of yourself first, Tom said. It's obvious Jack isn't seeing things clearly. Maybe time apart will make him realize what's important. Here, Susan said, sliding a box of tissues toward me. Stay here for as long as you need to. We'll help you figure this out. After talking with my parents, I felt a small glimmer of hope. Maybe there was a way out of this mess. That night, I finally slept peacefully for the first time in months, feeling the comfort of being in a place where I was truly supported. Over the next few days, Jack called incessantly. The voicemails piled up, desperate, angry, pleading, but I didn't answer. I needed time to think, to heal. When I finally listened to one, his voice was strained. Evelyn, please come back. I can't do this without you. The house is falling apart. It was the confirmation I needed. He wasn't dealing with the reality of our situation. He was still relying on me to fix it all. One evening, my parents and I discussed my next steps. Have you considered your options? Tom asked, his voice gentle. I'm thinking about it, I confessed. But right now, I just need to find my footing. And you will, Susan assured me. Take the time you need. We're here for you, no matter what. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had control over my life again. Walking away wasn't an end. It was a chance for a new beginning. The resolve to find clarity and strength grew each day, bolstered by the unwavering support of my family. I approached the house cautiously, the place that once felt like home now tinged with apprehension. There was an eerie stillness as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The living room was surprisingly clean, almost too clean, as if no one had been living there. I called out, Jack, are you here? Silence. The air felt thick with expectation. I walked further in, noticing how empty it felt. The usual clutter was gone, the coziness replaced by a stark emptiness that sent a chill down my spine. I dialed Jack's number, the ringing echoing ominously. He picked up on the third ring. "Evelyn," his voice sounded strained. "Are you back?" "I'm at the house. Where are you?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "I'm at Mom's," he admitted hesitantly. "I moved out, decided it was best, for now." I took a deep breath, trying to process the information. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I thought you wouldn't care," he said, almost defensively. "You left me." "I left because we needed a change," I replied, feeling the familiar frustration rise. "Moving to your mom's doesn't solve anything." There was a pause before he spoke again. "I'm trying, Evelyn. I didn't know what else to do." "This isn't the way to handle things," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Running back to Linda isn't the answer." There was silence on the line. I could almost picture him, sitting in Linda's pristine living room, the judgmental eyes of his mother piercing through him. "Jack, we need to talk face to face," I said firmly. "This isn't something we can solve over the phone." He hesitated. "Mom doesn't think it's a good idea." Anger flared up inside me. "Your mother doesn't get to decide what we do. We're adults. We make our own choices." "Evelyn, please," he started, but I cut him off. "I'm coming over," I said, my voice firm. "We're talking. End of discussion." I hung up before he could argue further and grabbed my keys. The drive to Linda's house was a blur of emotions, anger, frustration, a glimmer of hope that maybe this conversation could bring some clarity. I pulled up to Linda's grandiose house and braced myself. The door opened before I could knock, and there she stood, arms crossed, the disdain in her eyes burning. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "I need to talk to Jack," I said evenly. "You have nothing to discuss," she snapped. "You left him, remember?" "Jack is my husband," I replied, refusing to back down. "We need to talk." She was about to argue when Jack appeared behind her, looking tired and worn. "Let her in, Mom," he said quietly. Linda glared at me but stepped aside. I walked into their immaculate living room, feeling the weight of judgment in the air. Jack motioned for me to sit, but I stayed standing, needing the sense of control. "Jack, this isn't working," I began. "Moving back here isn't fixing anything. We need to figure out what we're going to do." "I know," he said, looking down, "but I can't face it on my own." "And you won't have to," I assured him. "But we need to make decisions together without outside interference." Linda suddenly stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Outside interference? Is that what you call a mother's concern?" "This is between Jack and me, Linda," I said firmly. "You need to let us handle our own lives." Jack looked torn, glancing between us. "Evelyn, can we just try to work this out? Maybe if we move back here temporarily?" I shook my head. "That's not a solution. We need our own space, a fresh start." Linda scoffed. "And where will that leave Jack? Struggling while you avoid your duties?" "No," I replied, my voice cold. "It leaves Jack and me finding a way forward that's best for both of us without being controlled by you." Jack sighed, looking defeated. "I don't know what to do, Evelyn." I softened, stepping closer. "We start by talking, communicating, not running away to our parents." He nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Linda opened her mouth to speak, but Jack held up a hand. "Mom, I need to figure this out with Evelyn." Her eyes blazed with anger, but she said nothing. I took Jack's hand, feeling a small surge of hope. We had a long way to go, but maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back. Linda and Jack were waiting as I arrived at the lawyer's office. Linda's glare could melt steel, but I held my ground. Jack sat next to her, looking defeated. The air was thick with tension, each second dragging like an eternity. The lawyer, a stern woman named Miss Harding, greeted us. "Let's get started," she said, guiding us into the conference room. We took our seats, and she began going over the paperwork. Linda couldn't keep quiet for long. "Evelyn, this is insanity. You're throwing away your marriage over some petty arguments." "Petty?" I shot back. "Do you have any idea what we've been through?" "Jack's been a good husband," Linda said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "He deserves better than this." Jack squirmed in his seat but said nothing. I took a deep breath and looked straight at him. "Jack, we both know things haven't been right for a long time." He nodded slightly, not meeting my eyes. Miss Harding interjected, "Let's focus on the documents. Evelyn, you've made your intentions clear. Jack, do you have any objections?" Linda jumped in before Jack could answer. Of course he objects. He's devastated. Let him speak, Linda, I said firmly, my eyes locked on Jack. Jack finally looked up. I don't want this, he said quietly, but I can't keep living like this either. Linda's face turned red with anger. You're really going to let her walk away? After everything? Linda, it's our decision, I said. Your meddling has done enough damage. How dare you? She hissed, standing up. I've only ever tried to help. Help? I laughed bitterly. You've undermined every effort I've made to keep this marriage together. Your interference has driven us apart. Jack's eyes widened, the truth of my words sinking in. Mom, Evelyn has a point. We need to sort this out ourselves. Linda looked like she'd been slapped. You're choosing her over me? No one is choosing sides, Jack said, his voice shaking. But we need to handle this, not you. Miss Harding cleared her throat, bringing us back to the matter at hand. If we could return to the paperwork, I nodded, trying to focus on the tangible steps we were taking. As we worked through the details, Linda sat fuming, her eyes burning holes into me. The room felt like a pressure cooker, the tension building to a breaking point. Finally, Miss Harding handed over the last page. Evelyn, if you can sign here. I took the pen, my hand trembling slightly, and signed. Then she handed it to Jack. He hesitated, looking at me one last time. Are you sure this is what you want? I'm sure, I said softly. We need to move on. He signed, and the papers were complete. Miss Harding gathered them up. That concludes our session. You'll receive copies in the mail. As we stood to leave, Linda could hold back no longer. Mark my words, Evelyn. You'll regret this. You're throwing away the best thing that ever happened to you. I met her gaze, unwavering. I'm doing what's best for both of us. You can't control us anymore. Jack looked at me, a mix of sadness and relief in his eyes. Take care. Evelyn. You too, Jack, I replied, turning to leave. As I walked out of the office, the weight of the past years seemed to lift off my shoulders. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to navigate, no longer shackled by the toxic influences that had nearly consumed me. I was ready to reclaim my life and build a future on my own terms. I glanced around the empty apartment, feeling a strange sense of finality. The last of my possessions were packed, ready to be moved to my new place. I let out a deep breath, savoring the silence. It was a stark contrast to the chaos that had defined my life for so long. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Whatever you think you've won, remember you'll never escape the shame of your failure. I shook my head and dialed Rachel, my longtime friend. She picked up after the first ring. Hey, need help with the move? More like moral support, I said, a hint of a smile playing on my lips. I'll be right over, she replied, and I hung up, feeling a little lighter already. Rachel arrived soon after, her presence a comforting reminder of the support I had outside the toxic relationships I'd left behind. Ready to start fresh? She asked, giving me a hug. More than ready, I said. Let's get this show on the road. We loaded the boxes into her car, working quickly and efficiently. As we finished, I took one last look around the apartment. Good riddance, I muttered under my breath. Rachel smirked. Onward and upward, Evelyn. When we arrived at my new place, I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation. The apartment was small but cozy, the perfect blank slate for building my new life. We spent the afternoon unpacking, laughter and conversation filling the empty spaces as the new chapter of my life began to take shape. Then, unexpectedly, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from Jack. I hesitated but answered. Hello? Evelyn, I just wanted to check in, he said, sounding unsure. I heard you moved out. I did, I replied, keeping my voice steady. It's time for a new start. He sighed, the weight of regret evident. I'm sorry for everything. I should have listened more, fought harder for us. It's too late now, Jack, I said gently. We both have to move on. I know, he said quietly. Take care, Evelyn. You too, I replied, ending the call. Rachel looked at me questioningly. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, pocketing my phone. Just part of closing the chapter. The sun started to set, casting a warm glow over the apartment. We shared a simple meal on the floor, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, but filled with a sense of hope and possibility. Just then, there was a loud, furious knock at the door. My heart rate spiked. Rachel went to open it, and there stood Linda, her eyes flashing with anger. Thought you could just run away? No, Linda, I said, stepping forward, feeling Rachel's reassuring presence beside me. I'm moving on with my life. You can't control me anymore. You ungrateful, she started, but I cut her off. This is my home now. You're not welcome here, I said firmly, standing my ground. You'll regret this, she spat, but the words held less power now. Jack will never recover from what you've done. Jack and I will both find our own ways forward, I said, closing the door. Goodbye, Linda. Rachel locked it firmly behind her and then turned to me. Well, she's a piece of work. I laughed, feeling lighter. That's the last time she sets foot in my life. We finished unpacking, each box emptied, symbolizing a step towards reclaiming my independence. By the end of the night, the apartment felt more like a home. It wasn't just about moving to a new place. It was about reclaiming my life and my identity. As Rachel left, I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed one last time, but this time it was a message from a potential job opportunity. Things were finally looking up. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was mine to travel, and that made all the difference. With a sense of resolve, I closed the curtains and turned off the lights, looking forward to a new dawn in the morning. Morning light filtered through the curtains of my new apartment, a fresh start greeting me. I felt a sense of calm and readiness for the day ahead, my steps lighter as I moved through the cozy space. The chaos and suffocation of the past felt like a distant memory. As I sipped my coffee, enjoying the peace, my phone lit up with an unexpected call. It was Linda. I rolled my eyes but answered, curiosity getting the better of me. What do you want, Linda? We need to talk, she said, her voice unusually strained. About what? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. It's about Jack. He's not doing well, she admitted, her usual venom replaced by something that almost sounded like worry. I felt a pang of concern despite everything. What's going on? He's struggling to cope. He's lost without you, Linda said, her voice wavering. Please, Evelyn, can you just talk to him? I took a deep breath, considering my response. Linda, I've moved on. Jack needs to figure out his own life without me. You can't just abandon him after everything, she pleaded, a touch of desperation creeping in. I didn't abandon him. I left because it was the healthy choice for both of us. I said firmly, and frankly, he needs to stand on his own 2 feet. There was silence on the other end before she spoke again, a hard edge back in her voice. Fine, but don't think this is over, Evelyn. You'll see the consequences of your actions. I hung up, frustration bubbling up inside me, but I quickly let it go, refocusing on the day ahead. I had plans to explore the neighborhood, maybe find a coffee shop to work from. My new job opportunity was promising, and I wanted to embrace this fresh start fully. The day passed beautifully. I found a quaint little cafe just a few blocks away and spent hours there, immersing myself in new projects. My passion for graphic design felt reignited, the creativity and freedom flowing back to me. It was a reminder of what I'd fought for and won. Returning home in the evening, I felt a sense of accomplishment and peace. I was settling into this new chapter of my life, one where I called the shots. I cooked myself dinner, a simple but satisfying meal, and sat at my tiny kitchen table feeling content. Just as I was finishing up, my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I answered with a hesitant, "Hello?" "Evelyn, it's Jack," his voice came through, sounding defeated. "Can we talk?" I hesitated but agreed. "Okay, Jack, what's on your mind?" "I'm sorry for everything," he started. "I realize now how much I relied on you, and it wasn't fair. I should have listened more, been more supportive." "Jack, I appreciate the apology," I said gently, "but we've made our decisions. We need to stick to them." "I know, I just needed to say it," he replied, a note of finality in his voice. "Take care, Evelyn." "You too, Jack," I said, ending the call and feeling a sense of closure. Just as I was about to relax for the night, there was a knock at my door. Surprised, I opened it to find Linda standing there, looking more haggard than I'd ever seen her. "Linda, what are you doing here?" I asked tiredly. "Please, Evelyn, I'm desperate," she started, her voice cracking. "Jack's in a bad place. I don't know what to do. You were always the strong one, the one who held things together." I sighed, feeling a tug of pity despite everything. "Linda, I can't fix this for you. Jack needs to learn to cope on his own." Her shoulders sagged in defeat. "I just don't know how to help him." "I think the best thing you can do is support him without trying to control everything," I suggested. "He needs space to find his way." Linda nodded slowly, a rare moment of vulnerability in her eyes. Maybe you're right. Take care, Linda, I said, gently closing the door. As I leaned back against it, the apartment around me felt more like home than ever. The future was mine, filled with endless possibilities, free from the chains that had once bound me. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a profound sense of peace and hope.